Welcome back to Echoes of Family. A father's statement about money changed everything in that room. Let's take it from the top.
My dad handed me a folder across the old kitchen table. He said, calm as a banker, I used your college fund to pay Grace's mortgage. I'm Laura, 29, a mechanic from Union County. My hands smell like motor oil more than perfume. 12-hour shifts, grease under my nails, engines that always outlast apologies. He waited for me to explode. I didn't. I smiled, the kind that hides everything. If you think so, I said. 40 minutes later, his phone rang. He answered, expecting thanks, and froze instead. The bank said the transfer had been reversed. Before I tell you what happened next, where are you watching from? He called it love. I called it theft with a smile. Money was always a ghost in our house. No one said the word, but it haunted every meal. When I grabbed bran cereal, Mom whispered, budget, honey. When Grace wanted dance lessons, the budget magically stretched. By 16, I was changing oil filters after school. I paid for my own boots, my own future. Dad called it responsibility. But when the heater broke, he called me. Laura, you're good with your hands. I fixed it, paid for parts, and never saw the money back. At 24, I rebuilt Grace's kitchen backsplash for her wedding. They gave me a $50 gift card to a restaurant I hate. I smiled, said thanks like always. Being helpful was easier than being hurt. Grace got applause, I got calluses. At family dinners, they bragged about her promotions. When they introduced me, it was just, Laura works at a shop. Like my life was a pause between their successes. I learned to swallow pride with cold coffee. To call exhaustion being strong. Once I asked Dad what would happen to my college fund. He said, don't let money make you selfish. That line built a wall inside me. Every time I wanted something, I heard it echo. So I worked. Fixed. Stayed quiet. I became the daughter they could depend on. Because I never asked them for anything. When Grace cried, I showed up. When Dad broke down, I cleaned up. When Mom said family first, I believed her. Until I learned that meant Grace first. The day he handed me that folder, it wasn't just my savings he took. It was the proof that love had rules I never agreed to. Every favor I did was just another unpaid bill. The next morning, the shop smelled like metal and rain. Tires hissed outside, the world still wet from the storm. I wiped grease off my hands, but not the thought off my mind. Dad's words clung like smoke. You'll thank me later. I'd spent my whole life patching things that didn't belong to me. Broken engines, broken promises, broken peace. This time I wasn't reaching for a wrench. I was reaching for proof. While others talked about family, I read fine print. Between oil changes, I opened the credit union app. My name, my fund, my right. The numbers blinked back at me like headlights in fog. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt precise, like a weld cooling clean. That night, rain tapped against the shop's metal door. I stayed late, letting the noise drown every excuse I'd ever made. The wrench felt lighter in my hand than my father's words. I set it down and picked up my phone. The credit union line rang 3 times before someone answered. Her voice was calm, practiced. I told her my name, my plan, my permission denied. 10 questions later, she said, hold placed, escalating. Those 2 words felt louder than any argument. My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. I pressed my palm against the counter, grounding myself. The rain outside sounded like applause I didn't ask for. I thanked her, sat back, and just listened to the rain. Somewhere in that moment, I stopped shaking. Silence didn't feel weak, it felt earned. At home, the fridge hummed like a tired friend. I spread the paperwork across my kitchen table. Receipts, statements, copies of every promise. It looked less like revenge and more like repair. The next day, Miguel noticed the change. You look different, he said, wiping his hands. Yeah, I said. Finally fixed something that stays fixed. He studied me for a second. Feels good, huh? Better than good, I said. Feels steady. He smiled, nodded once, and went back to work. But I caught him humming, soft, like a mechanic's prayer. That week, I waited for the storm to break. Every unknown number made my pulse jump. Still, I showed up. Fixed cars. Fixed boundaries. Stopped apologizing for both. And when I caught my reflection in a shop window, I didn't see the tired girl who always said yes. I saw someone who could stand still without guilt. Before the next part of this story, tell me. Comment 1 if you've ever been the one who fixes everything. Comment 2 if you've learned to stop fixing and start living. I didn't scream. I signed a form. The phone rang at 9:54 that night. Dad's voice carried down the hall like metal scraping. Yes, this is Thomas. No, it's a family matter. A hold? I stood in the doorway, listening to the word reversed. He turned red, jaw clenched, eyes full of shock. "What did you do?" he demanded. I wiped my hands on a rag that still smelled of oil. "I made a call," I said. "You think you're clever? You're hurting your sister." Grace appeared in the doorway, phone still in her hand. "Is this a joke? We close Friday." "It wasn't your money," I said calmly. Mom's eyes filled quick, trembling on cue. "How could you be so cruel?" I said nothing. Silence worked better than apology. Outside, headlights cut through the rain and stopped too fast. Grace and Colin burst in without knocking. Colin went straight to Dad, voice tight, sharp. "The bank called me, wire bounced, they said fraud." Dad looked at me like I'd broken a law. I looked back like I'd finally read one. "You can't undo this," he said. "I already did," I answered. Mom gasped like I'd confessed a sin. Grace's voice cracked. "You ruined us." I kept my tone steady. "You used what wasn't yours." Colin stepped closer, fist tight but empty. "This is our house," he said. "Your house," I corrected. "My fund." Dad slammed his hand on the desk. "You'll authorize that transfer back, Laura." "No," I said. The word landed like a wrench dropped on concrete. We weren't a no family. We were a figure-it-out family, which always meant I figured it out. Mom tried the soft voice again. "Honey, Grace will put your name on the deed." I shook my head. "I don't want a corner of her house. I want my boundary respected." Dad laughed once, no humor in it. "Boundary? Where'd you learn that word?" I met his eyes. "At work. Welding class. You stay inside the lines, or sparks take something with them." No one spoke. The fish tank gurgled in the corner. Grace whispered, "So you'd rather see me lose the house?" I said, "I'd rather see you live within what you can afford." Dad muttered, "So this is revenge." I shook my head. "No, this is repair." He looked at me, lost, smaller than I'd ever seen him. I picked up my coat, calm as rain hitting steel. "I'm not walking out," I said. "I'm stepping back." Then I left, headlights still burning through the window behind me. The headlights weren't help, they were backup for the guilty. The morning after I walked out, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 12 missed calls, 5 from Mom, 4 from Grace, 3 from Dad. I stared at the screen until it went dark. At the shop, the air smelled like hot steel and coffee. I liked that smell. It was honest. By lunch, texts came in waves. "We can fix this. Be at the house at 7. I wasn't. At 7, I was printing bank emails for my records. Words like restoration to beneficiary glowed on the page. I slid the papers into a clear folder. No more manila. The same hands that fixed engines now guarded my name. That night, I changed every password I owned. Added 2-factor. A phrase so long it made me laugh. I stopped being the family's easy button. 2 weeks later, a man in a windbreaker came to the shop. He asked for me by name. His voice was polite, rehearsed, the tone of bad news. He handed me a folder. Inside, conversion, equitable interest, family understanding. They were suing me. I read every page twice, then a third time. My hands trembled, then didn't. I called the lawyer whose number the credit union lady gave me. He met me in a small office that smelled like paper and coffee. "They'll lose," he said. "It's noise, not substance, but it'll be loud." "I've lived next to generators my whole life," I said. He smiled. "Then you'll be fine." The next month was louder than I expected. Aunts posted essays about ungrateful children. Grace's friends sent me quotes about karma. Even a guy from high school messaged, "Bro, just help your sis." I muted them one by one like flipping breakers. Silence became power again. At the shop, I picked up extra shifts. Miguel and I started a small side gig. Custom metal shelves. 2 orders became 5, became 9. Every spark that flew felt like punctuation. The hiss of welding rods sounded like exhaling truth. Sometimes we worked past midnight, the radio low, doors locked. He'd hand me a bottle of water, grin. "Feels different, huh?" "Yeah," I'd say. It's work that doesn't drain you. But stories like this don't end with silence. They end with choice, with breath, with a steady hand that finally lets go. The steel bent, the light danced, and the world stayed quiet. My workbench looked cleaner than my family's conscience. Each weld was a boundary holding firm. When customers thanked me, I actually believed them. It had been years since that feeling made sense. One Friday night, I locked up, lights humming above. I realized something simple. They wanted me noisy, guilty, explaining myself, but I wasn't explaining anymore. The truth didn't need defense. It just needed to exist. So I let it. And for the first time, I felt peace without apology. I stopped being the family mechanic for their messes. 3 months passed before I saw them again. The grocery store smelled like coffee and cold air. I turned a corner and there they were. Mom, tired eyes behind coupons. Dad, thinner, pretending to check prices. They saw me both at once. Mom whispered, "Laura." Dad cleared his throat. "How's work?" "Good," I said. He nodded, like he didn't know what else to do. Grace wasn't there. I'd heard the upgrade fell through. They'd gone back to renting. The world hadn't ended, just adjusted. Mom's voice softened. "We should do dinner." I shook my head. "Not yet." Her face fell. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm protecting me." Dad looked at me longer than he ever had. "You always were steady," he murmured. I didn't see how much we leaned. For once, I didn't rush to comfort him. I let the silence land where it belonged. I placed a box of brand-name cereal in my cart, the kind Mom used to take out of my hands. This time, no one touched it. At checkout, the scanner beeped like a tiny applause. That night, I sat in my apartment with the lights low. The city outside buzzed like a calm engine. I opened my laptop and enrolled in a new welding course. Underwater certification. Hard, expensive, mine. No one had to approve it. No one had to know. I took a breath that didn't taste like fear. The window reflected soft light across my hands. Outside, a siren faded into quiet. For the first time, I didn't brace for noise. Maybe smaller family. Maybe quieter. But better because it's mine. If this story hit home, like, share, and subscribe. Peace sounds like an engine cooling after a long drive.